Hey guys, what's up? It's Par73 bringing you game 2 of the second round. First match between the Etherials and the Dapper Dan squad. Etherials taking game 1 on Drowned Empire. King of the map. We are now on Grilling Ground Light CTF. So, another change besides the map in the last two games. And momentum as well is it is no longer a 4-on-4. I believe Team Dapper Dan is now. I'm not sure if they were subs or if they were on the roster beforehand, but Cryptos and Jarl will be joining the Dapper Dan, and YOLO and Renwood will be joining the Etherials. So it's now a 6-on-6. And last week we saw how the games played out. Dapper Dan really went to steamroll mid and have their Trow be very heavily aggressive while ignoring the enemy Trow. And the Etherials, on the other hand, opted for a lighter mid, no flanks, no real pressure, and ended up tying in an uphill battle. And Dapper Dan's exchange of sending your Trow mid for ratios did not work out in their favor, as the enemy Trow were able to tag the back flag. So with all that in mind, we will see how these teams decide to play this map. So we have a nice strong artillery strat, max archers, max warlocks by the Dapper Dan. Meanwhile, max warlocks and yeah, also max archers for the Etherials. So it looks like Etherials changing up their trade and their strategy from last week, as both teams opt to stick all their warriors on the home flag and head out in search of the enemy forces. Etherials will be keeping their Trout together, handing both of them to Renwood, who I don't know if you guys know or not, but is a champion of the first Myth World Cup in 1998, played on the Fallen Lords. He was on the team called Rabble Forces. So it's nice to see that vintage player showing up for these games. And Dapper Dan squad, they are going to opt to split their Trow, Vion taking one, Jarl Toad taking another. So it should be interesting to see how the split Trow or two Trow advantage plays out. Both of these teams playing against teams who kept their Trout together last week. Pretty cool to see Etherials make the change in their strategy, also sending all of their warlocks forward this time, no fear. Meanwhile, Vihan is sneaking around the side of the map towards the northeast part of the flag, which is what their opponents did last week. So both of these teams showing that they've learned something from last week's matches, as Renwood takes some early unnecessary damage to his Tro. One of his Tro already half health. Jarl going to take some damage as well. His Tro close to half health. His Zerk's about to melt, and he's going to take some losses for the first blood. Vihan snooping around up top. His team disadvantaged mid by Trow. It looks like Renwood is backing off to Shadow. Well, Jarl's going to keep taking some archer hits, but he's able to take out a warlock shot here, distracting YOLO, who will also lose some archers. It looks like the eastern side of the eastern side of the map is scouted by Vihan, while Noah Master is scouting for the Etherials in the west. And another warlock for the Etherials is going to go down. So now there is a 2-2. Oh, it looks like 3 warlock advantage in favor of the Dapper Dan. They also have a 2% advantage lead. And Vihan's still roaming around the backfield. You'll notice Jarl's moving away. Etherials losing another Warlock as their Trow move in. It looks like they're getting ready to rush. Trow gets stoned. Renwood has to back off a little. He might eat some arrows without a quick move. And the Zerg's going to move in. They completely missed the Warlock shot. This could be good if Revan gets up there and tight. And the Etherials starting to push Dapper Dan, realizing they can't just sit around and play that Warlock game. 3-1. Really putting a hurt on the Dapper Dan archers. Here comes Vihan coming in from behind to help assist his team. And we have some Warlock shots exchanged. I believe I saw Etherials lose a large abundance of Zergs there, but they're still going to make it out with a nice large advantage. And they look to clean up and push with their Zergs and the Tro. Got a lot of dancing by Renwood over here. Seems like he's unsure if he wants to shadow Vihan's Tro or not. With all those warriors in the flag, Renwood, you should be applying some pressure. But it seems they're sandwiched right now, and opting to send a lot of attention to their rear instead of continuing to push. So Dapper Dan is going to be able to spread out a little more with their archers. Try to apply some pressure. They have the two Warlocks and the archers, which is holding the Tro and the Zergs from being able to just completely outright rush them. Although, at this point in the game, 5 minutes left, even with a percentage disadvantage, I believe that the percentage differentials you can get from archers is misleading on this map, and rushing mid is the better choice. And then also securing a Warlock all the way up to their D flag, because you have at least 20 warriors right here. They should be able to hold off these two low health Tro really without too much difficulty. And so we have the Dapper Dan squad turning things around and pushing with their all artillery force here. And really starting to they have this nice percentage advantage, which, like I said, could really be misleading. They have some lower health Trow, so they're also down a Tro, but they definitely have more artillery involved in this push. I mean, you don't really want to just throw your berserks at the Warlocks at this point in the game with so few units left on the map. I apologize, it's pretty late over here. I'm kind of tired, making plenty of errors for you guys to give me trouble about some other time. And we're going to continue to see Dapper Dan push up now. If you remember from last week, the Etherials were able to hold in upward push in this position. However, this time they're at the disadvantage of not having very many ranged units or artillery to really take that height advantage to the next level. Oh, a huge amount of warriors rushing in from the Etherials straight off of their home flag, and they're going for it. Renwood is going to get stoned. Switch is going to get stoned by Vive Power's Warlock. Does not bode well for the Dapper Dan, as they are also going to lose their other Tro. And we'll see Revan squaring off against Vihan's Zergs, attempting to make a last stand, but it seems like they're sending more orders to move than to attack. And you'll notice now, Dapper Dan, they are getting run down. The melee just overwhelming. As I had noticed before, you know, the archers and the Warlocks, the low health Trow, they can kind of prevent a spread out melee rush, but unfortunately for Dapper Dan, once they got to the flag, it was The Etherials realized their advantage and what they had to do in order to survive and totally turn this game around real quick. So Dapper Dan lost about 40-50% there. The Etherials have the percentage lead, almost 3 times the amount of percentage. So if they're able to get to this flag in time, will they get there in time? Then we will potentially see the Etherials taking the game, but right now they just have to stall. VFP tries to get the last hit on that Zerk. He's going to lose his Zerk. This opens the door for Mal's Zerk to move right up. With a minute left, it looks like there's going to be a contest in one last battle at this flag. There's nothing that Dapper Dan can do or has in their opponent's backfield to really swing the game back in their favor. They would have to win this melee right here, which they're already out of position and losing units. And with little time left, Etherials are going to move in for the kill. Switch still trying to bide his team's time. But this Zerg, it's much quicker than the Warriors, even though with only one little tiny hit point left, it could get zoned off the flag, but these Warriors will show up just in time to start the game-ending melee, and they are now in contest range. Mal's Zerks are going to move up, and now they're dealing damage. They have better attack speed than the Warriors, and that will be cleaned up pretty quickly. A very close game between these two teams. Fun to see the momentum go back and forth. And with more players on each team, it's even more exciting. So let's get into the statistics and then wrap the game up with an overview. We have No Master leading the Etherials here with 11, or leading them as a captain. He has 11 kills and 15 losses. A nice good chunk of damage, 47 damage. I am not quite sure what he had besides these game-saving warriors. That push at the end was real good. I'm not sure if he saw the advantage they had pushing the opponent's mid long ago, but he let their opponents back up. They played it safe, just like last week. They held the defense, and it seems like holding this high ground for Etherials has worked out in 2 weeks, giving them a tie and a win on this map. Now we have Mal's Leisure. He has 21 kills, 56 damage, 3 losses. I believe he had a Warlock, some Archers, and some Zerks from melee. He did a very nice job. 21 kills, 3 losses. It's some of the best ratios I've seen in the tournament so far. 7-1. 56 damage. He did a lot of the work for his team here. Definitely one of the major players in turning this game around for the Etherials. And also we have Revan finishing 20 and 15, leading his team in damage with 65. Good stuff by Revan. Let's see what he had. He must have had a Archer Zerk pack similar to Mal's. He does have quite a bit of losses, so he must have lost all of his Archers as well. But taking a lot of his opponent's units off the map, dealing the damage, playing key roles for his team. Doesn't have the most kills, but at the end of the day, key contributor to the Etherials' turnaround victory here. YOLO 3 and 7 with 30 damage, filling in the role player shoes for his team. Really not a bad showing by him. Freak Nasty 1-1 14. What was he doing? And Renwood 2-1 14. He might have one more kill than Freak Nasty, but I'm pretty sure Renwood had both of the Etherials Trow, and While they were able to win the game, it seemed like the Tro weren't much of a factor besides aggroing their opponent's attention. As you may recall, at the beginning, the very beginning of the game, Renwood's Tro, one of them's half health just within the first 3 minutes of the game, just trying to push around archers, and you can't really play that game, especially with no heals on the map. Really risky play, but it works out in the Etherials' favor here. And let's check the Dapper Dan squad out. We have switched 7, 19, and 22. A lot of his losses come from those warriors at the end. Really interesting for him to have his team off to push with all that artillery, although buying time was their best bet rather than waiting for a gigantic clumped melee rush. However, sticking around on the high ground might have worked out better. Vihan, 14 kills, 11 losses, leading his team in damage with 48. If you'll recall, he was poking around his opponent's flag, really rear-ending the Etherials' forces and dealing his damage in a sneaky way. Also having them, forcing them to adjust when he was somewhat pincering the ethereal forces in the middle part, the later mid part of the game. 5 power, 10, 7, 37 damage. I believe he had a squad. He was doing his work. Crypto's 37 damage, only 5 kills compared to Vi's 10. Racking up a couple more losses, but still contributing for his team. Your Mutator, 4 and 11, 23. And Jarl, who one may argue might have performed worse with his 1 Trow and a couple of Zerks than Renwood did with the 2 kills, 14 damage he produced with 2 total Trow. Again, having that aggressive, risky play with your strong, tanky units like Tro in the beginning, early game, without any heals, it can put your team at a disadvantage. And, right after Ren gave his opponents the advantage, I believe Jarl took quite a bit of damage from enemy warlocks and archers, and hurt his team more than did good, unfortunately. But all is well in a game of Myth. We will be moving on to Game 3, and so far it is Etherials leading 2-0 in this match. We'll have to see how the rest of it turns out. You guys will have to stay tuned, and I hope you can catch the next game. Good game, guys. Good game.
Team eliminated. Game over.